Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, Philippines, and in Australia, and wherever you are, guys. So, welcome back. I am so excited and nervous, actually, coming back. It's been a while since we had our last episode, but today is a very, very special um, episode since it's our start of season 3. To those who haven't seen the past episodes, my name is Jenny Rojas, and Real Talk with Jenny started in 2022 during the pandemic. For most of you who have known me, I'm a victim of domestic abuse, and the passion that came out of me is out of that. And during the pandemic, we heard a lot of stories. Um, People were just so frustrated with everything that's happened. A lot of issues came up with mental health issues and all that. So we came up with this show. So basically, it started with one or two or three questions from different people asking about my journey in healing and being a mom and all other things. I felt that I was not an expert in any way, although it's my experience that just brought me to speaking out loud and valuing self care. And so that this show came about, and I am so grateful always to those people from all over the world who actually connected with me and shared their stories. So basically, Real Talk with Jenny talks about different stories of people who surpassed different challenges, and may these stories inspire everyone. I'm into kindness, compassion, and love. Sounds like a cliche, but with a small step, with a small deed, everyone is sharing. Maybe we can make this world a better place. So, all right. Towards the beginning of 2022, I'm still in my healing journey, by the way. It's an ending journey. But one thing that I realize is that it is very important for us to look into our inner child, the things we've gone through in the past, and be able to understand, have that self awareness, and realization and how or why things are happening in our lives. And with that, that will be our tool to move forward and make things better. So I'm so excited to introduce to you our special guest, who's a dear friend of mine. She is no other than Mrs. Louise Larkin. She's a devoted wife and mother of three beautiful girls. She was climbing the corporate ladder when one day she was listening to a local Melbourne radio station when a mom called up in tears and devastated that nobody turned up to her little boy's birthday. It was that moment that Lou wanted to make a change and make sure no child was left behind. And that is when Friend in Me was born. Friend in Me is a registered Australian charity that promotes inclusion and acceptance for at risk and disadvantaged children. Sounds interesting for everyone and for me as well. So that is why I bring you Mrs. Louise Larkin.
Oh my goodness, Jenny. What a beautiful intro. I could just watch you all day. It's like watching Oprah. You
Oh
are
my God, Lou.
you're so gorgeous. I was so engaged with you. I was like, that is one of the most beautiful introductions I have ever seen.
Aww.
So thank you so much for that, you wonderful human you.
No, thank you, Lou. Thank you so much for being here. And
Oh,
yeah, actually, I was looking through your website and things and all the lives you did. I was just so inspired, and I was just, how come? During the pandemic, we were all the adults were looking at worrying about their. I mean, not. I mean, it's always good to look at that, but
mm,
there's something that we probably have missed out, the small
yeah,
ones.
so much.
And
So much.
yeah, yeah. And basically, during that journey, I realized that's really the most important thing we should look after too.
Well, they're our future, right? If we don't look after our kids and we don't prepare our kids for what the future's going to hold, well, we're going to be in trouble because, the world is a little bit of a scary place sometimes. So if we don't prime these beautiful little souls into, creating this beautiful world of inclusion and acceptance, then who knows how the world's going to be in 50 years. So that's exactly what I'm trying to do, is just prepare our little people for the next generation to go forth and just create a really beautiful world. Like you said, with a little bit of kindness and a little bit of compassion, we can hopefully make the world a better place.
Exactly. I really love that. All right. So before we talk about friend and me,
Uh-huh.
Lou, maybe just talk about yourself first.
Oh gosh, well, you did such a beautiful introduction. So I guess, yeah, first and foremost, I've got a beautiful husband, Cam. He's in the corporate field, and we have been married. Geez, I think, oh gosh, 5 years or 6 years. God, that's terrible, isn't it? See, when you get to my age, it doesn't even matter. Quite a long time. So I think 7 years, maybe 7 years we've been married. And we've got three beautiful girls. We've got Giselle, who's 6. We've got Florence, who's 3. And we have little baby Annabelle, who's 15 months old. So and we've got 2 crazy dogs. So we have a very, very busy household, but, so much love is in our house. And we are, before anything in this world, I would do anything for my family. We live in beautiful regional area in Victoria. We moved here 5 years ago from the hustle and the bustle of the, inner west of Melbourne. So, I'm building my way to getting my land in a beautiful estate, but I'm not quite there yet. But, we love living out here, and we're building a really beautiful family. And, I'm very lucky that my husband Cameron is so supportive of all my crazy ideas, and leaving a very high senior role that I did 5 years ago to build Friend in Me. I wouldn't be here today without his support, because charities are really hard to build. It's not just
Yeah.
an easy feat. And that's what I'm very grateful for. So that's me. We love doing things as a family. We love horse racing. Crazy, I know, but
Oh,
we've got shares in a horse. So, we love being together. We love getting out and enjoying our time. Time goes so quick. I can't even believe my tiny baby is 15 months old. I feel like I was just pregnant with her. But it's very busy. Life is very busy, but I can't talk to you about that, Jenny, because I know you've got lots of
yeah.
kids too. But it's definitely never a dull moment bringing up a young family and having a charity and other businesses. But we love it, and I do what I do because I'm very, very passionate about everything that I'm doing to try and make that world a better place.
Yes, exactly. So, you started Friend and Me
Mm-hmm.
when you heard that story over the radio. Talk
Yes.
us
So
through that.
yeah, as I said, I was in the corporate space. So I worked for a very big company here in Victoria, and I was there for a very long time. And I was driving to work in the morning, as I do, and there was a mum. Her name was Bev, and she called up a radio station called Fox FM here, and she was in tears. And I turned up the radio, I was like, oh, what's so sad about this story? And she was upset. She's like, oh, I had a little party for my boy on the weekend and nobody turned up. And I was just driving along going, oh, that is terrible. How sad is that? Like, why didn't anyone turn up? Because
Yeah.
at the time, I had one girl, had Giselle at the time. And I was thinking, oh, if that was my little girl, that would be so sad. Now, little Logan was living with cerebral palsy. So,
Mm,
he had his challenges, and at the time, it was his 6th birthday, and at the time, he was still wearing, nappies because of his
yeah.
incontinence, and so his peers knew that, and whether or not that contributed to them not understanding why he was wearing it, at that age.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, I was like, oh, that's so sad. So I came back to my office. And I sat down and I messaged 2 of my girlfriends from the gym I was at the time. I said, I heard a terrible story on the radio about a little boy who wasn't, no one came to his party. Let's put on an event. And they're just like, okay, what sort of event? I'm like, for all the little boys and girls who have never been to a party before. So in 6 weeks, we went to the local council, we got a little bit of funding, and we got some really great community support, and we put on an event, and we marketed it all the little boys and girls that had never been to a party, and we just made it a really big inclusive party. And that was 5 years ago that
Mm-hmm.
we hosted our first Friend in Me party.
Party.
And that event had just under 400 people turn up, within 6 weeks.
Wow.
So I remember, like, oh my God,
400 people.
people. And I had no idea what this was going to be. I never thought I'd be sitting here today with this as a fully fledged charity. And I remember looking outside and they're like, Lou, there's a line down the street. We were literally at just a community hall. And I've looked outside, I'm like, there's a line down the street. How exciting. And anyway, that event was a huge success, but we closed the book. I went on to keep on working in my corporate job,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought, well, let's do another one next year. And then we did another one the year after, and that one had about 600 people. So we doubled the amount of people that were coming along. And it was that second year that we were starting to get some really good traction about people were like, oh, we love what you do, all this inclusive talk. And I mean, I was still learning. I was just learning that so many families were feeling like Logan, right? So many families were feeling like that little boy. And then I had my second daughter, Florence, and I was due to go back to work. And I turned around to Cameron and I said, I don't want to go back. This is not what to do. Like, I've done my time there. I've learnt so much, but there's no fire in my belly anymore to go back to that job. And he said, well, quit. I said, well, I can't quit. We've got kids. We've got a mortgage. I can't just quit. I'm carrying on. He said, well, if it's not making you happy, then just quit, Lou. So I remember I was walking down the street crying. I was like, I can't just quit, but I don't want to go back. I want to do this and I want to do that. And anyway, I rang them up and I actually resigned that day. And it was like a weight was taken off my shoulders. And then when I resigned from that job, all these opportunities came flying in the door, and we got like lots of media, and people really wanted to know, how they can be a part of this organization. So then we got into the third year, and we had 2,000 people at that event. And that is when I was just going, let's do this. So we registered it as a charity. We started getting medical professionals on our board. I started educating myself more around the space of inclusion, acceptance, and where the problems kind of lie, and who is this community and who is this market. And a lot of our families, they are living with disabilities, but they're also living with those invisible disabilities that we talk about, your autism, your ADHD. I was researching how, little Johnny is just the naughty boy in the class, but is he really, or is he just a little bit misunderstood? And he's coming with other challenges that the kids don't necessarily understand. So now we're into our fifth year, and we are a charity, and here I am. I'm still pretty much volunteer in this organisation. So you can imagine that my passion is 100% there, even 150, 160% there, because this doesn't really bring me in a wage, but it brings me in all the passion. But we're starting to grow our team and grow our organisation, and looking for different avenues that we can not just put on a fantastic event, but what other programs can we put in place so the next generation that comes through has more of an understanding of these children, and learning to accept them into the community through schools, through community sports, and then even further in the workplace as well. And
That is so. That is so amazing, Lou. From 400 and then increase and then 2,000, and you're on your fifth year now. So first,
we're
congratulations.
on our fifth year, and we just had our fourth event. Obviously, because of COVID, we had to cancel one of the years. But we just had our community day in March this year, and we had just over 3,000 people, which was a fantastic number considering, through the pandemic of all the challenges that come with that. So we are growing, our community day is growing. Our programs are being put together now, our inclusion programs that we want to take out to businesses. So they know how to be inclusive as well. It's not just a tick the box, yes, we include, bring it along. It's like, okay, that's great, but how do you do it and how do you manage it? And can, you know, families bring in their little boy who could potentially have a meltdown in the middle of your hairdresser? Do you know how to manage it, and do you know how to make them feel comfortable in the environment? So we're working really hard on those programs as well, and thankfully businesses are getting behind us and backing us in regards to these programs and putting them together. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited. The passion is not going anywhere, clearly, because, you know, as I said, charities are really hard to build and sustain, especially through what we've all been through in the last couple of years with the pandemic. It was kind of like, it was a make or break. It's like, we're either going to be able to keep this going, or this is going to die on the ass, and I'm just going to give up and I'm going to go back to my corporate world. I'm going to earn my money. I'm going to work for someone else. But will I be happy? Probably not.
Well, I admire the passion. I think most people would love to work at something that they really love to do, and the passion won't go away.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I do have a question that I normally ask when I have
Yes.
this real talk.
Yes.
Um, it sounds like you have a perfect, environment.
Yeah.
Looking back in the past, most of the people I've spoken to who are building something that they're really passionate about came through
Yeah.
something that happened to them, they experienced in the past. That's why they are building this particular program or this particular business. So I have
Yeah.
to ask Lou, was there something that you experienced in the past that led you to being passionate in doing this for the
Yes.
children?
Yes. So besides Logan, obviously Logan, that little boy on the radio, was my inspiration. But upon reflection, 5 years down the track, I've learned that this all stemmed from my dad. So I lost my dad to mental health 5 years ago this year. So we've just had his 5 year anniversary. And we lost him to this disease because he couldn't find his place in society. My dad was very quirky. He had a very, very dry sense of humor that not a lot of people got. He started drinking at 13 years old. So you can imagine the brain development and everything going on there. And he kept drinking throughout his teenage years. And he was very kind of like, where do I fit into this world? Like, I 100% believe as well that my dad probably had ADHD or some kind of Asperger's or something like that. I bet you if he was around today and we got him assessed, it would probably be something like that. So this, upon reflection, 5 years later, I always thought, oh, I just want to help kids and I just want to work with children and
Yeah.
that's what I want to do. And I want to be, this pillar of the community that just goes out there and helps everyone. But when I think about it, this actually came from my dad. This came from the challenges that my dad was living. And when he made that decision at 68 years old to end it, that's
Mm.
probably a step back from him. So because my dad couldn't find a place in society, I now want to help my girls, as well. I want to help my girls know that they've always got a place in this world, and all of the little boys and girls, that you've always got a place. If you can't find it, then let's guide you and show you that you are never actually alone. There are other people that are living with the same challenges or the same feelings, but you just have to find them and you just have to connect with them. I think I went to a conference a few weeks ago, and it was the same narrative between all these girls who were living with ADHD or autism. They always thought that they're like, why am I here? There was one lady, and I quote, she said, my only friend that I had in the schoolyard was the tree. And she said, my only friend was a tree.
Aw.
And I was just like, how, like, what does that even mean? She's like, I felt like I
Yeah.
couldn't talk to anyone, but if I spoke to the tree, well, the tree just accepted me and it didn't say anything back.
Mm.
And it was kind of that moment that I was like, we need to make sure that no one thinks that their only friend is a tree. They need to make sure that there's at least 1-2 people in this world that accept them for who they are, understand them, and guide them through to be, on this journey with them. So This 100% stems back to my dad's challenges that he was living with, and it's probably what's brought me here today and why I'm so passionate. I mean, outside of Friend in Me, how passionate I am about mental health,
Yes.
regardless. And it's not just children that I want to support. There's, adults I want to support with their journey. I get the understanding from men's mental health because I dealt with it with my dad. Like I remember going and visiting my dad in a psychiatric ward, and thinking,
Mhm.
Dad, you don't belong here. Like, what? Get
Yeah.
yourself better. And I tried so hard to get him better, but I couldn't, because at the end of the day, it's up to him. It was up to him to make
Correct.
those changes, and he didn't want to make the changes. And unfortunately, that was the end of it. But the comfort is when losing someone like that is that they're free from the pain. Their dark tunnel that they're living in, because I don't know what that's like. I've been very grateful that I myself have not really ever lived with any mental health challenges at all. Like I've always been
Yeah.
very lucky that personally I haven't lived with them, but associated with them I have for a very, very, very long time. Seeing dad, and now in the work I do every single day, I'm dealing with these poor children who are living with mental health challenges, and further to that with their families. Some of our mums that, day in, day out, looking after these little ones through therapy and
Mhm.
appointments, like, they're spent. They're really struggling. They're struggling because they might not have an answer as to why their little boys having seizures every night. There's no answer as to why this is happening. All these types of things. So I feel like I'm very like lucky that I can relate to
Yeah.
so many different people from so many different walks of life through mental health, and try and support them as best as I can. I mean, we have a long way to go here in Australia, and probably for yourself in the Philippines too. We have
Yeah.
a long way to go with mental health, a long, long, long way. And there's always going to be high suicide rates. That's not going to go for a very, very long time. But as long as you and I and our extended community can play a very small part in just trying to change it slightly. And my thing is, if we can save one little boy or girl from feeling like, they want to take their
Feeling
life, or
alone.
they're not accepted, if we can just save one, then I think our job is done here.
That's just so great, Lou. For most people, maybe they're not understanding when we talk about inclusion. Will you just talk us through? Because you mentioned, there are people because they are sick. That's why people try to avoid them. So maybe just talk us through on the
So,
term inclusion.
yeah, so like for a stat here in Australia is that 1 in 6 children are excluded. So that is that misunderstanding. Oh, have I lost you, Jen?
No, I'm
Or-
here.
Oh,
I'm
that's
putting you
okay.
on the spot.
Oh, on the spot. Yeah, 1 in 6 children are excluded. So that's a stat that, my daughter has 24 kids in her class, so 3 of them are excluded because they're misunderstood, or like I said before, they're just known as the naughty kid. They're the naughty kid, but maybe it's just because they've got ADHD and they're just having challenges with sitting down and listening on the carpet. So what children are doing, if they're not educated on why little Johnny is playing up, well, they're going to exclude them, and they're not going to get invited to the birthday parties, and they're not going to be able to get invited to having a play on the playground. And that's exclusion. And then that's where all these other challenges happen, sleep deprivation, mental health issues, depression. Their learning just goes downhill. So they're behind in their learning in school. So what we are trying to do is make every child in that classroom or that community sport to understand, okay, well, that little boy has some different challenges, and he may be working with some doctors or nurses to help him. But what we need to remember is that he still has a heart. This is what I say to my girls. They still have a heart. They still have feelings. So we can't hurt their feelings, and we still need to make sure that we are including them. And sometimes inclusion, and I say this to my girls, you do not have to be friends with everybody. No way. This is not what I'm trying to say, that every child, you have to be friends with everyone, nor do you
Mhm.
have to invite every single person to your birthday party. When we start talking about birthday parties, it's always hard. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to go and say to my 6-year-old, you have to invite the whole class, otherwise you're excluding everyone. I think that you also need to learn that sometimes we don't get invited to stuff, and that's okay.
Exactly.
But what we can't be doing is excluding everywhere else, whether we're excluding on the yard. We can include anyone to come and play basketball with us on the yard.
Correct.
Or we can include someone to go and sit down in a corner and read with them. Because sometimes, and I say this again to my girl, if you just go and ask so-and-so to go and read a book with you one day,
Hmm.
you never know what that's going to mean to them, that someone has actually taken that time to invite them over and include them. And that could be the start of them going, you know what, maybe I am something. Maybe I do have a place here and I can make friends and I do have someone that I can rely on and talk to. So we just want to be able to educate everyone in the community that everyone is living with different challenges and it's never fair to exclude and I guess just not try and understand what's going on in
Hmm.
their world. I think that's a very big thing.
Yeah. From what you're saying, I think it's nice that you have all these programs, for the kids. But don't you think it's like the parents as well that we firstly need to educate as well? Because sometimes when we sit in that, I don't know in Australia, but here there's just a when we look back the olden times when the kids who are in the square of being normal, won't go around and just, as you said, just being naughty. But then and then they would say you just have to sit there, and if you move around, then he's talked about, like, he's this, he's that, and things like that.
Absolutely. And I think for us, where it kind of starts is at the school. If we don't educate the families that there might be 5 kids in this class with ADHD or
Hmm.
autism, then how is a family supposed to know that that's not just the kid being really naughty? Because that's where it starts. So I feel like we need, like, I know sometimes my daughter's like, oh, that little boy was so naughty, not necessarily in the class, but maybe on the basketball court. And I try and go, okay, well, maybe he's having some challenges, or maybe he just can't quite sit still and
Hmm.
listen to instruction. So maybe he just needs some support in a little bit more understanding. Now, it's very hard to put that into a 6-year-old's head because I get it. Some of these children, if you are not educated, so say it was my daughter, I'd be like, no, that's just a naughty little girl. She's just really nasty. She's really mean. And then it's just like, let's just not even talk to her. Like, don't even worry. Don't
Hmm.
even talk to her. Now, this is some of the conversations that are happening. And then that's that
Yeah.
ongoing flow effect of why that poor little girl gets left out because she's just known as being the naughty one. So I think it starts for us as a small step. It starts with the schools. I really
Hmm.
do think that schools need to say to the whole family, it doesn't have to say who it is, but um, you know, in this class of 23 people, we have 5 children that have these challenges. So we just need to be aware that, and maybe it's like in a newsletter, these are the effects that, ADHD have. Da, 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 da. These are the
Exactly.
effects that autism have, and these are some of the things that can go on. And then you kind of like, okay, well, that's what that kid's been doing to my children. So I kind of understand. But I also, another thing I'm passionate about, you cannot use that as an excuse either. So you can't say, well, my kid has ADHD and that's why. No, no, no. You still have to be able to control it. But
Mhm.
if we are aware of what's going on in the classroom or the sporting field, then maybe we will have a little bit more of an understanding as to why little Johnny is behaving the way he is. And maybe we can have some techniques on how to help and how to manage.
Yeah.
Because if we have a toolbox where we go, okay, well, if he comes up and he starts hitting us, maybe we have a box of fidget toys and we say, look, I don't really appreciate you hitting me, but did you want to play
Use
with this?
this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
use this and see how you feel. It doesn't have to come from a student, but hopefully the teachers are providing that as well. Like, just go and do that over there, because it's not acceptable to hit. We don't hit in this classroom, and we don't behave like this in the classroom. But go over there and have a play with this and see how that makes you feel. Just little tips like this, I think, would make big changes in being able to accept all of these kids in the classroom and on the sporting field. And I say those because that's majority where the kids are spending time. Um, so hopefully that, that they're the small steps and the small changes that we can do to provide this inclusive environment for all of the kids.
Yeah. So it's a hand in hand thing, right? Like from
Totally.
parents, yeah, to teachers. And once the parents have known that their kids are like this, then they will have to explain to their own kids that, this is happening. It's basically some acceptance that there are children that are quite different and there are other tools to address it, but not really be mean or stay away from them.
That's right. And it's just little things that we can make changes with when it comes to that. So hopefully that this is the things that we can start changing. And it's so much around education. Like it's just a lot of education, little things that we can just change to make these kids more aware. Because, I work with these families every single day. I get it, but not every family does. And I get it. Like, if that little person is just being really nasty because of their challenges, then they're just going to go, nah, that's just a naughty kid. I'm not even going to bother. Like, don't even talk to that kid. And then that's how the ball starts. And the problem is, as they get older and into their teenage years, that's where they start going, really, maybe I shouldn't be here. No one wants to talk to me. Maybe I shouldn't be here. I'm just going to go and end it, or I'm going to go and self harm, or if they don't want to go on that side, then they're going to go, I'm going to go and hang around this group of people that are just breaking the law because you know what? They're kind to me. They accept me. They don't care. So then they just choose that completely wrong path.
Mhm.
They have no opportunity, no opportunity. And then that's when it all goes downhill from there, I think. So if we, we want to be a preventative organisation. We don't want to
Yeah.
capture the kids at the time where they're feeling excluded. We want to teach the kids how to feel included. So although we do have a lot of families that go, my kid's never been invited to a party, how can you help? We want to change that. That's what we've got to do immediately. But down the
Yeah.
track, we want to go, this is how you include, not for why you're feeling excluded.
Exactly, and that's amazing. So as I said, yeah, it's a hand in hand thing. Everyone needs to do their own part.
Yes, absolutely. And there's so like businesses need to do their own part, parents, teachers, other children, like all of us. If we all just know a little bit, like and a lot of people's minds are blown that my children don't have disabilities they're
Yeah.
not living with any kind of diagnosis at the minute. I can't say it's going to be like that for the rest of our life, but right now I'm also being educated daily on what these children need and want, and their behaviors. And one of our committee members said to me, he lives with Asperger's, and he said, do you know what it means to have a sensory overload? I said, oh, bright lights and loud noise. He's like, yeah, it is bright lights and loud noise, but for someone with autism or Asperger's or something like that,
Yeah.
not the neurotypical brain, he goes, it's actual pain. Like it's actually like
100 times. Yeah.
it's like proper pain that we need to get out of that situation immediately. Like it hurts us. He goes, it's not just like, oh, cover my eyes, or like it's a little bit loud.
Mhm.
He goes, we feel it in our soul, the pain, and we've got to get out of there. That's why we hide under the table. That's why we melt down. That's why we run and kick and scream, because we are actually scared for life. And you know, someone like myself just might go, oh, sensory overload, so God, so bright in here, like just turn the lights down. But for someone with a neurodivergent brain, they're actually like, this is pain, like literally painful for me.
Pain.
I need to remove myself or I'm going to act up. So just putting it into those words kind of goes, oh my God, imagine feeling like so scared
Mhm.
that you need to escape. Like that's how they feel when they have this sensory overload. So it's just changing that narrative and putting it into someone who doesn't quite get it. It's not just
Yeah.
bright lights and loud music. It's actually painful, like literal pain inside.
Yeah. While you're talking about that, I was just reminded. Um, my son actually has a bit of hearing deficiency on the left ear.
Yeah.
Now, there are sounds that he would say it's totally painful to his ear. So while you're
Yeah.
talking about that now, okay, so that really that's something, that for
Yeah.
us, oh no, it's just nothing. But for them, when they say that, that's completely hurting their ear. So just
Absolutely. And we need to, at our
be
event this year,
sensitive.
yeah, we had at our event this year, there was a point where it was very loud, right? And I did have a few people come up to me and say, "Oh, it's too loud," but that's me learning. Next year, I've got two pavilions, so one of them's going to have no noise, and like when I say no noise, like no loud music, no loud lights, like it's just going to be a pavilion at the showgrounds. Excuse me, but for me at that point, I'm like, yeah, it's kind of loud, but for them, it's like this is so loud. I
Mhm.
need to escape from here. I need to
Yeah.
remove myself away. So I learn daily. I learn how to manage that. And even some people really complained about that and got really angry at me. And I actually just picked up the phone and called them and I said, look, do you think I intentionally wanted to do that to make you feel scared and angry at the situation? They're like, oh, no, no. I said, look, I need this feedback. I need this education because that's
Mhm.
the only way I'm going to be able to make it better this year. So I hope you don't think that I've intentionally made it loud and uncomfortable for you because, and I mean, this is a whole nother story, but I said behind that friend in me, FIM logo, this is
Uh-huh.
me. I'm a mum. I'm a human being. I'm a person. And I'm not saying I get everything right. So talk to me about how I can
Correct.
make it better. And they were like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'll take it off Facebook. I'm like, don't worry about taking it off Facebook. Just tell me how I can make it more comfortable for you and how I can learn. So, I'm not pretending I know everything, how to create this inclusive world for everyone. I don't know how to do it on my own. I need people to help me create this world. But I'm hoping that if we all do it just a little bit, then
Yeah.
maybe we will start just chipping away at creating a better world for all the kids and adults and teens and everyone in between.
Yeah. Perfect. I love that. Um, I was looking at your Facebook live, and there's something that struck me when you
Yes.
interviewed when you interviewed Jenny. It's the book on how we blend.
Oh, yes, I love Jenny. And this is a beauty. Like, look at us right now. Like Philippines, Australia, she's in the UK. I think at the time, actually, she was in the States on holidays, I think, actually. Um, but, and this is the other thing. Like, this is not just disabilities, is if that's what we're getting at.
Yes.
Um, so Jenny and her wife are extremely successful in their businesses and her wife Sam, like she's just incredible at what she does in her business. So, very focused on their business. Anyway, they met each other, they got married, and her wife had two children. And she had to accept, so the children had to accept, okay, mum's marrying another woman. I'm going to have two
Yeah.
mums. Um, and we had a chat about that. And the book is called Howie. So the character is Howie, as in Howie,
Yeah.
but it is how we blend.
We
Like
blend.
that's
Yeah.
how we got onto it. And this beautiful book is just about all different families. I'm a single mum with kids. I'm a single dad with kids. I'm in a same-sex relationship. I'm a de facto. I'm an adopted mum. Um, and we had a really beautiful conversation about that because this is another part of exclusion.
Yeah.
So, for instance, when you have a Father's Day stall, if you've got two mums at home, well, you don't really want to have a Father's Day stall. But if I don't explain to my daughters so we used to have neighbours across the road, beautiful neighbours, same sex couples, they just had a little baby, Giselle. So they're two girls and they had a baby. So then we got in a whole conversation. I said, but do you know what? She said, I didn't get, I mean, she's 6. I got into as deep as I probably could around
Yeah.
sperm donation and all that kind of stuff. But I said, yes, but the beautiful thing here is it does not matter if you have two mums or two dads or one mum or one dad. The fact that what we need to just make sure is that whoever is caring for us loves us, and it doesn't matter what type of families we come from. I said,
Mhm.
I've got a friend who did she went out and had a baby on her own. I said, well, Gracie, she doesn't even have a dad. Like, she doesn't have a dad. I mean, she has parts of a dad that helped her become a baby.
Yeah.
She doesn't have a dad. She just has one mum, and her mum is a solo mum. And she did that because that's what she chose to do.
Mhm.
Whereas your little friend over here, she's a single mum, so she has a dad and she sees her dad on the weekends, but her mum is single, but they both love your friend just as much as the other one. So that was a really beautiful conversation to have across the world, which I love. I love connecting with people across the world.
Yes.
Um, but that is just another way that we are promoting that inclusion, that acceptance. So if that little boy, I think it's a little boy and a little girl that they have, when they go to school, it's cool that they have two mums. You know, it'd be cool if they had two dads or one mum, one dad. Like, it doesn't matter. You know, I think we're coming a long way with same-sex marriages and all those different type of family blends that we shouldn't even bat an eyelid. It's just like, oh yeah, cool, you got two mums, or yeah, cool, you got two dads, or yeah, you just got one mum. That's okay too. Like, and it's just opening up that conversation. And I, you know, when I was speaking about that to Giselle about the girls across the road, it's like
Yeah.
nothing to her. Like, she's just like, oh, cool, okay, well, I still love them and I still love their baby and their baby's so cute. Like, and hopefully in time, there's no, oh, what do you mean two mums? Like, that's, you shouldn't have two mums. Like,
Exactly.
you know, it's just normal conversation. I also did another blog the other day. Well, I didn't write it. One of our volunteers wrote it. So these volunteers are our characters that, you know, do amazing work with us, and they're like an extension of me. I love them so much, and they're just so, they're always here to get into character, but they're always here to support me personally as well. But they spoke about, you know, being gender fluid and, you know, all the genders. And again, I don't know half the stuff they wrote about, but I'm like, teach me more. Tell me more about why you be a girl or boy, or, you know, they both go, you know, they, you know, they're, but then they said sometimes I don't care if you call me she or he. Sometimes I
Yeah.
pull myself back in, but excuse me. Um, it was a really beautiful article that just stepped inside the shoes of someone to show that it doesn't matter, you know, what is going on inside, whether I'm a he or a she or excuse me, I've
Sorry.
got a bit of a cold at the moment. Yeah, it doesn't matter what we are. What matters is that we, and I say this to the girls, I know I always go back to the kids, but what matters is that we all have a heart, we all have a big heart, and we all have a heart that can
Exactly.
be broken as well. So let's not do that. Excuse me. So yeah, that was a really beautiful blog again to educate that. So I'm hoping that by us just writing little blogs like that, if just one person reads it, and it could be just a parent of a child who might be going
Yeah.
through a transition or something, hopefully that just says to them, you can still be whoever you want to be. If you've decided that you don't want to be known as some kind of pronoun, that's not the end of the world. Whatever, who
Correct.
cares? It still means that, you know, Alex and Lisa, who actually wrote this article for me, are the most beautiful souls. Like, they're always there. They're always, you know, the first ones to kind of jump on and volunteer to be a character. But to me, they're just Alex and Lisa, right? I don't care what you want to be known as. I do call them she more, and I'm like, oh God, sorry, pull me up, pull me up. They're like, fine. Like, it doesn't matter, but they're not too anal about it. But my point is that I'm educated that little bit more now, and hopefully other people are educated more on just being a little bit more aware that if somebody does want to be known as they, or they don't want to be, you know,
She.
yeah, then let's just be a little bit more conscious in respecting what they want. I think is very important, and then, you know, which leads to having them included, you know, depending on what they want to be known as.
Absolutely true. I like the idea that, you know, we talk about all these things, but we get it. Some people are taking it hard for them to accept what's happening, but this is reality.
Yep.
They are human beings. They deserve to be respected, loved, and cared for. If we have just a little bit of compassion, I think, you know, we can make this world a better place.
Absolutely. And with people like you in it, Jenny, I think that we will do a very good job at that.
Um, one question. I know you talk about you've spoken to Giselle about these things. Is there, do you think, a particular age wherein we can communicate and talking about inclusion? It's like including them in the conversation as well, right? So,
Yeah. Look, I mean, look, you can really start at any age. I mean, I could sit there and tell Annabelle at 15 months old, don't be like little cheeky Annabelle, trying to get their hands up a little bit. That's not nice. That's not kind. We don't do that. So you can always start the conversation at any age. But look, I feel like for me personally, when I've started the conversations that have really, really actually sunk in, is around that six-year-old. That kind of Giselle's come out of the prep. Now I don't know how it works in the Philippines, but prep is
yeah,
the first year of primary
yes,
school
same,
here.
same here.
Same. So she's finding her feet. So by grade 1, she's starting to understand it a little bit more. But I used to talk to her back in kindergarten. Like she asked, why doesn't, one of her little friends talk? Because she had speech delay. And I said, well, because she has a few delays, but she's getting help again from doctors and nurses. But, and her and Giselle are just like little besties. Like they've been gone through kinder in the same classes together. So, I started having that conversation when Giselle was 4. So I think it's never too early to start just little things like, we still have to be kind. Like, little Florence who's in daycare, she's 3.5. She's like, little so-and-so, he doesn't talk. And I know that he's nonverbal. I know he's
Yeah,
nonverbal. So I've had an age appropriate conversation. I'm like, that's okay, but he can communicate in other ways. And, can you still go
yes,
outside and bounce the ball with him? It's like, she's like, yes, we've been bouncing the ball. And he was lying on me the other day and he was having a little rest on the couch. And I said, see, we can still communicate. And what you're doing is you're still being kind. You're still including him. Good job, Florence. Well done. And then she kind of goes, that's when I think it can start to set in. But I really think real conversations have to start happening at 6 and 7, because by the time they get into grade 3, which is like your 8s and 9s, that's when it starts getting really nasty in the classroom. That's when the bullying starts happening. Research shows that it's grade 3 that we know that we are hurting someone. We know that if we say bad things, we are actually intentionally hurting them. And that's where that exclusion really starts. So if we can prime them before we get to grade 3 and that kind of 8, 9-year-old, then I think that's a win for us, because that's when they start going, I'm just going to be a nasty kid. And that's what we want to eliminate.
that's great. Actually, just in time. Earlier, I was listening to this podcast, School of Greatness, and the guest was Dr. Joe Dispenza, and they said that really at the young age when the brain waves of the kids are like on delta theta mode and things like that, we really have to show them kindness and compassion, because whatever
Absolutely.
they absorb in that particular age is kind of the truth that's coming out when they grow older.
Absolutely. And it's that internal dialogue. If they hear it enough, then they're going to think that that's what they are. If they are hearing enough when they're 5 and 6 and 7 that you're shit, you're naughty, you're the bad kid, they're going to start believing it. So when they're getting to grade
That's right.
5, 6, year 7, 8, 9, 10, into their young adult years, they're going to believe that they shouldn't be here, and they're going to believe that, they don't have a place. So if they're told it enough as a kid, whether it be from their teacher, their parents, because they are just not understood, then they're going to grow up believing it, which is really sad.
Correct. We're having some very interesting conversations here. Guys, the people who are listening or watching, if you have any questions, I think Lou will be happy to answer them. So just feel free to just message us, because we're using StreamYard. I'm not able to. Otherwise, I'll have to look onto Facebook and see whether if you have questions, guys. So just hop in and place in your comments.
Yeah. And even if after today anyone has comments, questions, feedback, whatever that is, I'm always open. I'm like an open book. I'm always, happy to ask. If I don't know the answer or I don't know anything, I just go and ask someone in our community that does, because we have so many amazing professionals around us. that can help answer questions or guidance or have tips onto how we can help their little boy or girl or whoever it might be.
That is so cool. Thanks, Lou. So, just a quick one. I keep on
Yeah.
saying quick one, but then I have a lot.
We can talk a lot.
Since Friend and Me is now like 5 years, I'm sure you may have some experiences or challenges that you cannot forget, and maybe
Yeah.
there's something you want to share with us.
I think for me, like I said at the start of this conversation, I never thought this was going to be a charity. I didn't think that I would still be sitting here 5 years later. So I guess I never planned for this charity. Like I never really did a business plan, or I didn't sit here and go, I'm going to start my own business and I'm going to go do a business plan, which, I don't really do anyway. I just do everything ad hoc. But I think for me, if I had my time again, I would sit down at the start of this journey and go, right, this is what I want to achieve. This is where I want to be. This is our market. So I feel like I probably would have planned a little bit more rather than just kind of going with the flow, because what that's meant is some of the programs are taking a little bit longer because we didn't have a plan, right? We didn't have a plan, but we also didn't have funding. So, being a charity, again, we rely heavily on funding, and that's starting to come through nicely now. So we are lucky. But on the flip side of that, on the flip side of kind of not having a plan, I do feel like for anybody who thinks there's something that I want to do that is I've been sitting on, whether I want to be grow a business or start a business or leave a job, sometimes you just have to go, I'm going to bite the bullet and I'm just going to risk it and I'm just going to do it. Like I was so scared to leave a very well paid job, a very secure job. I was so scared to leave because I thought, well, how are we going to survive? How am I going to go from this salary to zero and still have children and give them the quality of life? But everything falls into place in the end, and everything happens for a reason. And I was meant to be here. I truly believe that I was meant to be here, and I was put on this earth to make a difference and to just help whoever I can help along the way, because that's what puts fire in my belly. And do you know what? Life's too short. If we sit here and be miserable in a job just because it pays good money, then we are absolutely going to never be happy. So although I'm so busy constantly, I wake up living and breathing Friend in Me and helping the wider community. Also outside of Friend in Me with, our other projects that you and I are very lucky to work on together. So that would be my number one advice. Have a business plan. Yeah, whatever. Meh. That always happens. But more than that, if there's something you want to do, then you just go out and do it, because, everything will fall into place if it's meant to be. And you know what? I always thought, well, if it doesn't work and I hate it, well, I'll go back to corporate. I'm not, I can easily get a job because I've got the experience. So if it doesn't work, I'll just go back. And now finally in the 5-year mark is when it's starting to really fall into place for me. But then I have other stuff that I'm doing and then I'm like, oh. So yeah, that's my one tip.
Thank you for that. That's too scary, but yeah, we've talked about it. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
All right. So, you've given us a lot of tips on how we can include children in the society. Are
Mm-hmm.
there any other tips that you can share with us so we can be better human beings
Look, I
in
think
I mean and making, including children in everything, in the conversations, and any other
look,
tips?
I think we've covered so much of it. You nailed it at the start. We just have to be kind. Like it just does not cost a cent. And like I said, I'm not sitting here advocating that you go and tell your kid you have to invite every single person to the birthday party in class. That is not what we do. But what we need to be doing is we just need to be kind and understanding and show some empathy. The showing the empathy is probably more around the adults. Like if we think there's a naughty kid in that class, maybe we just need to take a step back and have a think if there's anything else behind that kid. So then we can slightly understand why their behavior is happening. And then let's try and think about how we can teach our child to maybe try and make it a little bit easier for them and their little brains. So, but yeah, above all, we just have to be kind. Don't be an asshole. That's what I say to people. Just don't be an asshole, okay? Don't be an asshole. It doesn't get you anywhere. It's not nice. So just be kind. It doesn't cost a thing.
Correct. Yeah, I got that line when you said think before you react. Because sometimes when we are at the verge of our emotions, we react fast and we don't really step back and think, hey, maybe he or she's going through something, things like that.
Oh, and that is so. Look, well, I'm not perfect. Sometimes I need to take my own advice with my own children. Think before you react, Lou. Sometimes you just scream and you're overwhelmed and you yell and you just go, oh my gosh. And then you stop for a second. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, I screamed at the girls the other day. School holidays, juggle, life. I was tired. I was overwhelmed. But when I did it, I called them back. I said, come here. And I put, especially Florence, she probably copped it the most. I put her on the bench and I said, I'm so sorry for talking to you the way I spoke to you. I really shouldn't have done that. But sometimes you have to understand that when mummy says, just wait a second, you just need to help mummy and you need to be patient. And she's just sitting there, little 3-year-old. Yes, yes. I said, I shouldn't talk to you like that, but you also we need to work together. Mummy's just very tired. Mummy's very busy, very tired, but it's not an excuse. So come and give me a big cuddle, and we can have a big cuddle. And, so I'm no means perfect either. And, sometimes I react as well. But if we just try a little bit harder out in the community to just sometimes go, okay, maybe there is something else. Maybe they're just not being a little shit of a kid. And maybe I just need to think about how I can teach my kid to manage that and give them some
Correct.
tips for, like, is it a fidget toy? Is it like, is there anything I can do? I know you're feeling really angry, but because sometimes a kid might go, oh, hang on, maybe they do want to understand why I'm feeling like this.
Yeah, and that's a very good example. It's always good to explain immediately why you react that way, because sometimes, you know just an instance that happened to me, like, if you did something and you didn't mean it, but you did not call their attention, they would
Mm.
think that the action that you did is intentional. So
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, look, that comes back to, I'm not being violent with my kids, but that comes back to DV and being a victim, because when you're being attacked from that person, you start thinking, what did I do wrong? So maybe I am wrong. Maybe I deserved that. So
yeah,
I have to say to my kids, I'm really sorry for talking to you the way I should not talk to you like that. But I explained, Mummy's tired, Mummy's, a bit overwhelmed, and we need to try and work together. But I am sorry that I spoke to you like that, and it's not your fault. I mean, really, probably was at the time. Like, what were they doing? They probably just had to fit no, they ran a little, and I shouldn't be like that. But that's reality. That's sometimes how we feel, but it's how we react after it, post it, and just once we get out of that crazy red zone that we might be in, then bring ourselves
yeah,
back to normal, then we can start going, okay, I'm really sorry that I reacted like that. Let me try and understand how you're feeling. And I always say to, especially little Florence has a lot of big emotions. And I just sometimes say to her, I know you're feeling really angry and upset right now because you can't have that chocolate. But you just sometimes in life we can't have what we want, Florence. Like, let's just, and let's try and think about something that I can give you right now because you're not having a chocolate bar at 7 a.m. So it's just trying to understand. And I think it's the same kind of moral in the classroom, in the schoolyard, and on the football oval as well.
exactly. So with that, thank you so much, Lou. I
No,
think we
thank
really
you. I love
we
talking to
really
you. You speak
same
so
here.
beautiful.
Ah, we really learned a lot from you, and we all hope that we will be able to practice what you just explained to us, the
I hope
tips
so.
that you shared with us.
And it's so small, but if it's so small, if everyone across the world does something so small, then that's going to be a very big step in the big ocean of inclusion.
Correct. But at this point, I would like you to invite everyone who's watching, probably from wherever they are, to go to your website, or maybe if they are on in Australia and they would like to help and things like that, they would
Yes,
please.
amazing. So we're just at www.friendinme.org.au, and we're all over socials on Friend in Me as well. So, yeah, feel free to connect, email, message, call, whatever. My doors are always open and I'm always happy to help where I can.
Thank you so much, Lou,
No
and I'll speak
worries.
to you soon.
Take
Yay!
care. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye. All right, everyone. That was an interesting conversation. To those who were watching who wasn't able to send in their questions, please feel free to still send in your questions and I'll send it to Lou, and hopefully Lou will get back to us with an answer. It's a wonderful afternoon. We all hope that we learned a lot today, and let's just live our lives with kindness and compassion. Sounds like a cliche, as I mentioned in the beginning, but I'm sure we can make this world a better place. So, thank you so much and have a great day. This is Jenny signing off on Real Talk with Jenny.